The battle for the win in the prototype stole the show at Sebring. The fight wound down to the last corner of the last lap, and Morad prevailed to garner his first ever Autobahn win. But the Wiley Williams has notched up runner-up finishes in the first 2 rounds and could be one to watch out for throughout the season. We'll see if he keeps up the consistency today as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Adam Lindgren and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. LeMans presents a unique challenge to drivers. Technical and fast, they must figure out how to keep up their top speed while retaining mechanical grip in the corners. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Le Mans. When you talk about legendary circuits, this is a place that stands among the most famous in the world. Part permanent road course, part temporary street circuit, it traipses through the countryside just south of the city where it gets its namesake. Its size matches its reputation as well, clocking it at 8.5 miles, which equates to roughly 13.5 kilometers. However, when you take into account that it's split by only 33 turns, the frighteningly fast nature of this circuit becomes clear. Most of the corners have been added over the century of history it's experienced, but many have become renowned and respected. The 2 turns at the opposite ends of the massively long Mulsanne Straight play equally important roles. Tertre Rouge requires a great exit in order to not lose massive amounts of time, while Mulsanne Corner takes bravery and precision in order to brake as late as possible and keep opponents from passing you on the way in. There's also hair-raising moments like the tricky entry to Indianapolis, or the close walls along the bridge section in the Porsche curves. To win here, drivers will need a very low downforce setup, a good sense of strategy, and heaps of bravery. The 24 Hours of Le Mans is the crown jewel of endurance racing, which many drivers dream of someday winning and many fans flock to witness in person. Once you've driven the track here on iRacing, it's easy to see why. You see about this world-famous circuit that has been the center of endurance racing for pretty much a century now. But Adam, we've got a pretty classic set of cars to be running here today. How are they going to interact?
Yeah, very reminiscent of quite a few of the famous GT races of the day, especially the Le Mans 24-hour. But the Circuit de 24 de Le Mans, or also known as the Circuit de la Sarthe, is a very famous race course. Almost 8.5 miles or 13.7 kilometers long. This 33-turn layout is extremely long, with lap times for the prototypes ranging in the 324s and the AM class in the 355s. Around here we got the 3 classes, the prototypes, the GT Pros, and the GT AMs, and how they're going to interact is going to be basically dependent on how they handle each other on the straightaways. They have quite a few long straightaways, especially going down into a couple of the hairpins and a couple of the right angle turns, and what they're going to want to be able to do is to pass each other on those sections of the course. You got danger zones at the Mulsanne corner, at Arnage, into Indianapolis, through the Porsche curves especially are danger zones as well. So with the delta between these classes being in the 50-second range, you're going to want to be able to maximize that straight line speed for the prototypes and not catch them at any of the twisty bits, the AM classes, that is, at any of the twisty bits, to make sure that you maximize your lap time around here.
Certainly will be a fascinating dynamic, very unusual compared to most of the tracks that they run over the course of the season. Speaking of the season, now that we've got 2 rounds in, let's take a look at the point standing, starting with the prototype class. David Williams hasn't won yet, but as I mentioned, 2 second places on the boards mean that he's got the most points of anybody. Josh Wolf is back in second, about 10 points back. Carter Kundinger following him closely, along with Paul Darling and Daniel Morad, very tightly together there from second to 5th place. And just like in the points in the qualifying right now, it is very tightly packed in the mid-pack, so that could change around a lot. DJ, we also have the GT Pro class. Why don't you run us down that?
Well, it is just at It's just as tight up at the pointy end of the field here. Ross Booth holding on to a 1-point lead over Kevin Binkley. Christopher Pies, they're 8 points back. The ball behind him, 13, very, very close between that tag team duo of Turcotte and Stephen Jeffrey there for 4th and 5th. Only a point separating them. So very, very close across all of the standings. And in terms of qualifying here, a little bit more disparity than in the prototype class, but it's still going to be a good battle.
Yeah, and in the GTM class, it's very similarly tight, but Kevin Santana is the only driver in the GTM category to have 2 podium positions in the first 2 races. And we have Ryan Walsh coming off of his 2nd place last week, who's only 5 points behind Santana. And then we have Joey Atterbury, who's been fairly consistent there, sitting in the 3rd position. Kevin O'Keefe is doing a great job as well in 4th, being extremely consistent himself. And then last week's winner, that being Jeremy Rhodes, is sitting in the 5th position, but it's still very tight up there after only 2 rounds. Going into this 3rd round, it's going to be very important to have a consistent finish for all of those looking to challenge for the points championship this week.
That'll be very important to those GTM drivers. Also important is the Teams Championship, which is very unique. Right now, it is led by DMG United with Lap Rats Racing, about 13 points back. Then it stays equidistant, interestingly, between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then you've got something of a jump down about 9 points to AOD Racing. The way that they do that in this series, if you're not familiar, is essentially each team has to have a driver, at least one in each class. So even though there are 4 drivers per team max, they have kind of a backup in one of the classes if they so desire. Some elect to take that, some do not. But it certainly makes for a very fun and exciting championship for those teams. Of course, DJ, we've also got the race details for today's round. Why don't you give us the heads up on that?
Well, this is the 3rd race of our 14-round season. It is going to be a 90-minute race here. We are going to be racing the 3 different classes of cars like we ran you through. The prototypes, those are exclusively going to be the new Dallara LMP2s racing service. In terms of GT Pro, you're going to see the BMW M8s, the new Corvette, that C8, and the Porsche 911 RSRs. GTM, just as much in there. You've got the Mercedes, you got the Audi, and the Ferrari. Important to notice in terms of setups and all of this stuff, the prototypes are capped at 90% fuel of their normal capacity. The GTs down at 67% fuel of their capacities. So that's going to change things up. And on especially important on a long track like this, Joe, there are no fast repairs. You break it, you buy it.
Yeah, especially with how much top speed they'll want to keep up. You really don't want to upset the arrow on these things as we watch qualifying finishing out. Longtime viewers of the series might be a bit confused because, well, you see all 3 classes on there at once. Because it is Le Mans, they have left it to a complete open qualifying instead of splitting them up into each class. And so they're all able to be out there and try to set fast times here in these final 15 minutes of coverage that we've got. Jason DeVries currently leading the way in the prototype qualifying with Brian Bennett up at the top in the GT Pro, and Kevin Santana having a bit of a back and forth with Joey Atterbury in the GTM, and all are still up for grabs. Maybe about 2 or 3 laps left that the drivers can try to claim that top spot.
And here comes Jason DeVries through the Porsche curves, and it's very interesting to be watching all of these racers try and tackle this long course with lap times in the 3.5 minute range. You have to spend a whole outlap, the entire distance of the outlap going out there. So like you said, Joe, even with 7 minutes left, these drivers only really have an opportunity for 1 or 2 more laps to get done here. But here comes Jason through the last couple of corners. Let's see whether or not he can improve on his current pole position time.
That looks like he's well off, so that might have been a bit of a slowdown lap in between. We switched over to Mark Wilson. See if the 3.23 can go any faster as well. He's second to last in his class currently. 3.77. Looks like also another one that will not be any quicker, as that is a slow one for him. Now, where is Santana and Atterbury? Both of them are in pit lane. So if they want to improve, they've got to get out there and try and see if they can get one more in. In the meantime, we've got Paul Slavonic who is 6th in the GT Pro. His fastest lap. It's a 3:45.6, and that'll put him on the second row into 3rd.
Great run there from him. He's going to be really, really pleased with that lap as we now watch Paul Lindsay cross over the line. He is not going to be as happy. Lindsay unable to improve there, so he's going to have another crack at the apple. But here comes Daniel Morad working his way through those forward chicanes. He's very slow off the pace, so not going to be an improvement there from Morad.
What if we could jump to the 003, Joe Stifle? He is one of our few drivers that have yet to set a time. It's been a real sticking point for many of them that the off tracks have caused them to lose their lap time. And there's so many paved runoffs in this this course that it's just easy to stray a little bit too far as you push. Yeah. Stifle's on his 5th flying lap here just to set one single good time.
And I think this actually might be an out lap for him. He crosses the line with a 4:16. That's going to be a good 17 seconds off of the off of our pole setting time. So unfortunately for Joe, he has pretty much just about 2 laps to try and set something here.
Looking at Ross Booth now in our GT Pro class, sitting in 8th in that class. That's Billy Smith also. Let's see, is this going to be a good one for him? No, does not appear to be. Ross Booth just behind him. Yeah, it is a quick one, a 3:45.5. And Ross Booth now goes ahead of Slavonic and Binkley into 3rd.
Another good lap there from Booth. These times are starting to come very, very fast. Here comes Connor Kudinger down through those 4 chicanes, trying to cut it as much as possible. Let that LMP2 bounce up over the curbs. He looks like he's in for a good time. Oh, I jinxed it by 0.02 of a second. He remains in 10th place.
Olivier Turcotte going to be one of the next ones through, along with Bradley Haley here that we are on board with. Currently has managed to get it into 5th, about a second off of the pole time, but he has to make up 0.3 to get to the next person up to see if he can reach row 2. There's a lot to be found around this track. It is so long, but he doesn't find any there. He's 0.3 off of his quickest instead. Turcotte going to be the next one up as the number 44, Sockrider, as we can see here on screen now, out of the forward chicane. Currently sitting 17th in that GT Am class. This is only a second timed lap. It's a 4-flat-1. And it looks like that's not going to get him a spot, even though that was quicker.
Jason DeVries just set the fastest lap in that prototype machine up there. He just crossed the line and finishes the fastest lap. That puts him almost half a second ahead of David Williams. So David A. Williams is going to have to get some work done to try and catch up there, and so are the rest of these prototype guys. Here's Mark Wilson coming across the line, trying to improve a 3:27.7, and does so, cuts about 0.7 off of that, and does improve his position as well.
Up 3 spots. Jimbo Pfeiffer does not appear to be on a competitive one, especially now that he is off into the dirt, so that is going to be it for him. Josh Wolf, who has been tied with Giuliano Romagnolo down to the 0.000 of a second for much of this qualifying, is still stuck tied with him, so 7th and 8th are split by nearly nothing.
So all these drivers who are starting their laps now, Joe, are going to be on their final lap of the qualifying session, considering the fact that we have closed underneath that 3:24 number on the clock, which means that all these drivers are starting their final laps. That includes David A. Williams, who we saw crossing the line just a little bit ago, in second place, needing to close nearly 0.5 to try and improve his time and pass Jason DeVries for pole in the prototypes.
Romagnolo not able to get himself free of that tie with Josh Wolf, as you saw him have an off and ruin that lap coming out of the final corner. Gaudreau Drapeau comes across the line. That one's not going to count for him. Another driver having difficulty keeping it clean. And Joe Stifle, poor Joe, is still looking for a clean lap. Last time we watched him, he was on that out lap. So is this going to be it? He's going to be chased by Daniel Morad, our winner from last round. Morad goes through. Stifle letting him by easily without being interrupted and into the forward chicanes. Can he keep it together? Has this one been on course all the time? Out of the final bits. And to the timing line, what is it going to be for the 003? A 3:59.2, and that'll actually put him up to 14th.
Yeah, great lap from him. Just getting a lap on the board is hard enough around here. He's got one more lap to play with, so if he wants to, he can try and set another fastest lap. Here's Billy Smith coming across the line. He's going to start his final flying lap as well as David Perry starting his final flying lap. So everyone trying to get out there on those fresh tires with little fuel, trying to set their final laps of the day.
I know you had your eye on Kevin O'Keefe a little bit earlier as well. The 6.29 up in 6th with less than a tenth to try and get into 5th spot, but this one's not going to do it seems. Here we go. Dawson Brock, a familiar face here on GSRC. Number 83 is currently sitting in 8th position. This lap, unfortunately, looks like it will not count. So this starts his final flyer as well. And Ryan Robertson going to abandon any pretenses of another lap as he parks it and calls it a day.
And here comes Turcotte working his way down out of the Porsche curves. Very wide line there into that forward chicane, just trying to work that BMW anyway. Ken, big chunk of curb there on the exit, able to keep it just off the grass. Is he going to be able to go faster? He is not off by about a tenth there from Turcotte, so he's going to stay 12th to start off this race.
Tough break for him. Also, Chris Sherburne just not having a good qualifying session, currently in 17th, pulling off into the pits. But here is David Sockrider trying to improve his time over a 4 flat. He's going to cross the line with a 3:58.422. That is definitely better and bumps him up to 11th in class.
Oof, a last gasp. That will certainly help him. Josh Wolf still sitting in 7th place.
Oh, that's
and
Williams.
David Williams is not going to be able to take the pole as he unfortunately ruins his lap at the very end of it. Josh Wolf not able to improve either. It's all falling apart for some of our fast runners.
As here comes Lee Peterson looking very, very quick. Is he going to be able to? No, he is not across the line. He's going to be about 1.2 seconds back, so unable to improve for him there, unfortunately.
Mark Katrowski currently in 22nd, last of the drivers who have set a time in the GT AMs. We're going to ride on board as he comes up to the Porsche curves. We were talking about how quick they are, how dangerous they are through here. Let's get a driver's eye view of just how narrow it is.
Yeah, especially in the Audi with the qualifying setups they put onto these things. It can be very loose around here. You see him having to play with the wheel, try and balance that car. It's got a very interesting center point of gravity where it likes to rotate, and that's the way you get the fastest laps. But it looks like Mark just a little bit out of sorts here. Currently 22nd, last of the qualifying GTMs. We know he's faster than that, and unfortunately he spins it out.
That's going to end his qualifying. Morad just behind him. You see him flashing by in the number 50. He's down in 9th, surprisingly, especially after the win last time. Well, he's not going to be able to improve either. So as Morad abandons his lap and pits in, that leaves us with Jimbo Pfeiffer in the double lot. Up next, the Corvette out of the appropriately named Corvette curves and into the Ford chicane. Let's see if he can improve on that 3:47.4 and get higher than 15th. No.
Not sure what happened there, putting in a 5:01. He had to have had a little off there at some point as we watch one of the last guys out here on track. Robert Kansian working his way down now, lining up for those super fast Porsche curves. Really, really tricky to get right in these prototypes. They just come at you so fast and quick. You've got to be lightning with your reflexes through here.
And he takes a lot of the grass on the inside coming into karting. Not sure if that cost him time. The 13th place qualifier continues on like he still thinks he's got something. Does he stick with it? Nope, he does not have something. He'll abandon the lap and head into pit lane. And just saw Dawson Brock, our next one through, do the same thing. Just took a lot of grass on the inside of karting. So I wonder if he's also going to have to throw this one away.
Yeah, probably with a 3:56.9 in the bag. It's not likely that with that mistake he's going to improve the time, but he's going to try anyway. He's going to take it here through the sharp final chicanes of this course and try and improve his time with a 3:56.9 to beat. He's going to cross the line. It's going to be close. 356.697, so that does improve by 0.3, and will jump him up to 6th, just dethroning Ryan Robertson.
Then we've got Turcotte down in 12th. Olivier, can he get any quicker than the 347 odd? It's going to be tight. Looks like it's a decent lap. Crosses the line. No, and he's a 10th off.
I thought he might have had that there. I think he just took a little bit too much curb coming through there. But, Joe, that is going to wrap up our qualifying session here today.
It will, and there is a lot of cars out there, so let's start going through with our pole sitter in the prototypes. Jason DeVries up at the top with David Williams starting in second position. Paul Darling will be P3, flanked by Billy Smith in fourth. Inside of row 3, Bradley Haley, with no practice times on the board, still comes in qualifying and puts down a P5. Luke Carbonell will start in 6th, and Josh Wolf will be 7th. And it's Giuliano Romagnolo behind him in 8th. Daniel Morad with P9 is followed by Carter Kundinger to round out your top 10, and Mark Wilson will be in 11th. David Warner on the outside of row 6 and 12. Then has Robert Cancian to his diagonal inside in 13th. Leif Peterson in 14th, and Mike Major is the last of our prototypes in 15th. DJ?
Capturing pole in that GT Pro class is going to be Brian Bennett, followed by Young Park and Ross Booth behind him. Paul Slavinik is going to be lining up in that 10th row beside Kevin Brinkley. Behind them is going to be Stephen Jeffrey and Mo Islam, followed by Marc-Antoine Thibault in 23rd. Christopher Pies in 24th. Paul Lindsay 25th. Vance Bow in 26th. Behind them, Olivier Turcotte and Sheldon Rosenbaum. Behind them, Eric Antilli and Jimbo Fife. As we start to get to the back end here, Gary Muller rounding out your GT Pros.
Then it comes the GTMs with Kevin Santana taking pole over Joey Atterbury and Jeremy Rhodes in 3rd. Luke Schmidt's going to take off 4th from those GTMs with Ryan Wash in 5th. And we have Dawson Brock, that's Lucas Schmidt in 5th, Ryan Wash in 6th, Dawson Brock's going to start off 7th with Ryan Robertson in 8th, Kevin O'Keefe is going to start off in 9th with Shane Hunter 10th in the GTM class, Dominic Durenberg starting off in 11th with David Sockrider in 12th, Jordan Musser in 13th with Eric Goudreau starting off in 14th with Dale Green, 15th, Joey Stifel 16th, Matt Owens 17th, Tim McLeish 18th. Then we have Chris Sherburne in the 19th position. David Perry is going to line up in 20th next to Jaron Eaton in 21st, Sheldon Woloshin 22nd, Mark Kadrowski 23rd. Then the two drivers who did not set times, Reggie Robertson and Sean Reese. I do not believe they are lining up for this race, so that's going to round out all 55 cars in this field, Joe.
So interestingly, I do see them in the session, but no, they have not lined up. Also, we're missing Paul Darling. He is not currently in the session. It looks like he's just reconnected, so I wonder if he had some internet issues. He's got to really hustle and get himself to the grid, or else he'll be going from pit lane as they wave the green. They're already lined up behind that Porsche pace car. So let's go through our pre-race tradition, and we'll start with you, DJ. Who are your picks for the Protos and the GT Pros?
Well, it may be a little bit cheesy, but I gotta think that David Williams' consistency is gonna pay off here. He just looks absolutely unbeatable in that prototype car. As for the GTs, I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ross Booth or Young Park really hassle the leader Brian Bennett here. Those are my two picks there.
Adam, who have you got for the GTMs?
Well, for the GTMs, I'm going to go with Jeremy Rhodes. He was very, very quick last week, took the win last week at Sebring, so I can tell that he definitely prefers the straighter, flatter tracks when it comes to getting that car to rotate. So look for Jeremy Rhodes to climb his way up the front from that 3rd position and take it to Joey Atterbury and Kevin Santana, who are also ahead of him on the championship standings as well.
Interesting note on the qualifying for the prototypes. Pole has gone to 3 different drivers in all 3 of the races so far. Darling with the opening pole. Williams took it last time, and now we've got Jason DeVries up at the top. So will it give us a 3rd different winner on top of things? As DeVries giving the pace car driver just a little bit of fun there, coming up beside him. The tricolor will be joining us in just a moment on the front stretch as they slowly come through the Porsche curves. iRacing has gone to great lengths to recreate the pomp and circumstance of the opening here at Le Mans. Even if every race isn't going to be a 24-hour race, they want it to feel that way for the drivers and the viewers. I think, yeah, we can just see them off into the distance. So they might be coming a little bit late, I suppose, because we're already out of karting and up towards Maison Blanche. There they are now, as they streak across the sky with the French red, white, and blue past the pit lane and the start-finish line, giving a nice ear-splitting run past our virtual viewers. But the Porsche pace car just about ready to peel in. De Vries is going to be given control. Come out of the Ford chicane and the green flag waves. It's a good start for De Vries. Gets the jump on Billy Smith as they pretty much go single file, almost all of them behind our leader. The prototype streaming down towards the first chicane, the first braking zone, the Dunlop chicane. And overshooting the first chicane already. Our leader, Jason De Vries, is off. This is going to hurt a lot. I'm not sure how many positions he's going to lose, but let's head back to DJ for the GT Pros.
And everything off in good order, holding it down is there you see. That is Ross Booth really hassling Brian Bennett up front, but being forced to back off. A lot of kerfluffle there in the back. Everybody looking like they're getting through that first. No, they're not. There's a spinner as they go around. That is, I believe, Booth going around.
Not good for some of our front runners here at the very beginning of the race. And now we've got the GTM starters, Adam.
Kevin Santana got off to a great start ahead of Joey Atterbury. Jeremy Rhodes really struggling right now. He's under pressure from Luke Smith. But Luke Smith goes off track. He hits and gets collected by another car. That is Kevin O'Keefe, I believe. No, it's Dominic Dernberg. So a couple of cars off in the background. So multiple classes having multiple problems. But it's Kevin Santana over Joey Atterbury and Jeremy Rhodes.
All three of them seeing big wrecks at the very beginning because Bradley Haley, I know it was just an off for what we saw for our pole sitter, but Bradley Haley wrecked in the Forest S's, and he's now down to 14th, unfortunately. Unusual start. We'll come back to those replays in just a bit as we check in on our overall leader, Billy Smith, leading the way ahead of Romagnolo by 0.7 of a second already. In fact, a full second now, as he got a fantastic run side by side behind him. That is between David Warner and Mark Wilson for 8th.
There you see that move getting made up and around through the Molson kink, as that is the 19 moving his way up in the order. Good battles up and down the field though, Joe.
Let's check back in on our GT Pros. Brian Bennett, 1.6 seconds ahead of Young Park, a massive lead, which could be critical. That may have broken the draft for him, so unless Park has better one-lap speed, he is looking good. And back in our GTMs, it's much closer. Atterbury and Santana split by 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, Atterbury and Santana split by 0.5 seconds. Rhodes isn't far behind either. He's only behind by about 0.5 seconds as well. Ryan Wash, not that far behind either. But then there's a big gap down to Dawson Brock in 5th, and that comes from the wreck that happened. But Dawson is actually, that's Shane Hunter being challenged by David Sockrider, who's trying to sneak up behind him. And it looks like they're just starting to try and get to each other here. And Joey Atterbury trying to stay ahead of these guys, but it's going to be tight between these GT machines.
As we've been watching this, we had a change for the lead in the prototype. Smith is down to 3rd as Jason De Vries up to 2nd place already. So he has done a great recovery, even though he had a cut course penalty at the very beginning. Romagnolo is now our new leader after taking over from Billy Smith a little bit earlier in the first lap. They're completing that first go round and coming up to the line. So your top 5 in the prototypes: Romagnolo, De Vries, Smith, Carbonneau, and Morad.
really keeping everything nice and close up here. You see that is Romagnolo working his way. Ooh, little bit of brush of the dirt there on the outside as he lines up for the Dunlop curves there, but he is able to keep everything nice and easy. DeVries really starting to stalk him down, though. It's about a 1.2 second gap, Joe. That's going to play into contention when it comes to the draft down the Mulsanne.
No doubt about that. In the meantime, it sounds like Adam has seen some action in the GTMs, but let's keep the cameras here for more ads. But tell us what happened down in the GT3 cars there, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Owens and Jordan Musser got too close together as they were entering the braking for Mulsanne, ended up wrecking each other out into the Armco. So unfortunately, Musser had to take a tow, and I believe that Owens is still running, but he's had trouble. Ryan Robertson's parked on the side of the road, and I know Stephen Jeffrey also took a spin going into Corvette curves. So lots of drivers struggling on this first lap, Joe.
Still on the back of the number 492 Luke Carbonneau. We're on board with Daniel Morad. Remember, he qualified 9th, and in a lap and a half, he is up to 5th position, looking at a potential 4th. Didn't get a good exit off of the first chicane, and already Josh Wolf trying to run him down and see if he can make an overtake.
Really trying to put the pressure on him. You can see him start to dart out to the inside there as they go into the chicane. Not enough to do it, but you do that enough and it will really start to mess with the driver in front.
So Wolf hangs in the slipstream. It looks like we've got a battle for 4th here in the GT Pros, because Mo Islam down into the first chicane has Slavonic almost 1/10 behind him, and he gets a great exit here. So the Porsche, chasing the Porsche, are going to pick up speed down the Mulsanne straight. Will this be enough to slingshot by?
Joe, I've been keeping my eye on this battle for about the last lap and a half since we started. It has been back and forth. There is absolutely nothing between these two drivers. They are just trading position after position. Slavonic able to get around on that last lap, but here he goes trying. Oh, little bit of a wiggle, but he's able to keep it under control. Great car control there.
So Islam gives it up and slots into 5th. Behind them, we saw some action between Bao, Pais, and Rosenbaum. That is for the 6th spot between those three. And I think that Bao, unfortunately, going to be under threat as Christopher in the 36 has got a good slipstream, and they're ahead of them. Also side by side between Islam and Slavonic once again. In fact, they almost bang wheels coming into Mulsanne corner, and they nearly do it again coming out of the corner, but it seems that Slavonic has the edge.
Banging wheels like you're running at Daytona here. You gotta love to see that going into Mulsanne, but here comes Islam poking his way around, goes to the inside, setting up for that left-hander going, or that right-hander going into Indianapolis. It's going to be a drag race. Islam's going to have it here. Oh, pushes it out and they're on the wall.
Oh, and they are both just fuming over that one. It caused an even bigger wreck behind them, as I think, let's take another look at it. I think we had more cars into the wall with that 3-car battle coming upon them and not knowing where to go. Let's see if we can get an idea. I started to see them close on each other once again like that, DJ, and I thought, surely this early in the race they can't do something this silly.
I certainly didn't. You know, I gotta think that's a little bit of a case of Islam being a little bit there ahead and thinking that he had the advantage over Slavonic there, starting to move down. I don't think that's necessarily an aggressive maneuver, just trying to cut off the air, not trying to, push him out of the way necessarily.
Unfortunately, Slavonic had to take a tow from that one. Vance Bao now finds himself in 4th place instead. I'm not sure if he was the one that made a little bit of contact with the outside wall in avoidance, though. I'm not seeing damage on the car, so maybe if he was, he got away with it. Let's see if he goes in. No, he's going to stay out, so looks like he's clean. As he comes through, Christopher Pais is definitely heading in, so I think he got a piece of it, and Sheldon Rosenbaum as well. So those two must have been the ones that I saw getting involved. They are pitting in. We've come up to our prototype class here. This looks to be the number 33 of David Warner, I think, leading Mark Wilson down the straight.
It is indeed. You can see there Wilson trying to make the dive, and here he goes indeed to the inside on that chicane. Is he going to hold the line? He's got it, and clean and dust and move him up a position, as behind him that's going to open up even more of a disadvantage, as there, it looks like that's, I think, Cancian behind him may be able to get a run here too.
And David Williams all the way down to 10th, having to leapfrog his way forward. Right now he's trailing the pair, going side by side as Warner slips up the inside in Mulsanne. Mark Wilson will dutifully slot in behind, so the train of 5 exits the turn. Wilson will get a return favor of the slipstream. Williams continuing to watch, probably wishing that he wasn't having to waste time behind them. Can he get 2 for 1? He gets 1, but he's boxed in.
Oh, it's the worst thing to have happen on the Mulsanne. You've got the speed, you just have to lift a little bit. But there you see Cancian breaking up this W trifecta, or at least trying to. But they're going to go down here into Indianapolis. God, I love that corner. It's so wonderful. That banked, such a good exit there. But there you see Williams trying to get around Warner, but nothing to it. But that's Warner. That's Wilson or Warner. That goes wide.
Eventually you get one of them. That's it, as Warner goes down into 12th. And finally, David Williams is going to be able to get to 8th, and he's got 4 seconds to make up just to get to the next car, which is Carter Kundinger. Remember, he started on the front row, so this is not looking good for his hopes on consistency.
And Joe, believe it or not, David Williams actually, he did start on the front row, but he did have to come through that pit lane just a little bit, so he's definitely out of place on track in that 8th position, trying to improve. He started this lap in 11th behind Leif Peterson, and is now all the way up to 8th, but he's got clear track ahead of him up to Carter Kundinger, 4 seconds ahead.
So while we've got you, Adam, I'm noticing that our lead battle in the GT AMS is still split by less than half a second. Atterbury ahead of Santana, and they are distancing themselves from everybody else.
Absolutely. Rhodes has fallen off by 2 seconds now, and he's accompanied by Wash, who's about half a second behind. Looks like Santana's doing some fuel saving, though. He has no interest in trying to catch up to Atterbury and making his way past. So it looks like there might be a little bit of a strategy play going on here in the GTM class to try and stretch the fuel window just a little bit longer here for Kevin Santana in second.
That doesn't shock me too much. Santana's a pretty wily character, and I think that he's using this to his best advantage possible, knowing that they'll just trade that lead back and forth if he tries to pass him. Yeah, you can see him. Yeah, he has no interest whatsoever, just kind of hanging back in that Audi. We've had a good battle between 4th and 5th in our prototypes. Morad and Wolf have been trading this back and forth for about half a lap now. And they break down into the first chicane. Wolf, maybe a little too hot into there. The exit is wide open for Daniel Morad. He takes advantage of it, but he's almost squeezed off into the left side.
And they're just going to drag race here down the back half of this Mulsanne straight. It looks like, though, that Morad's going to have the advantage. Wolf popping back into the draft scene if he can make anything doing. That number 12 thinking about trying to make a move as they go into that final chicane, but he is not going to be able to get anything doing there. Wolf slotting in behind Morad for the moment, but Joe, I think this battle's far from over.
And Morad was even getting on the radio complaining to Wolf. I guess he wanted to work together with him a little bit and said, why are we not playing the long game? Regardless, he's gotten by, and now he's got about 3 seconds to make up to get to Billy Smith. Both of them swinging it through the Mulsanne corner. As it's still being led by Giuliano Romagnolo, this class, 0.8 of a second from himself to De Vries. Not much excitement at the front of this class. They're just kind of cruising around at this point without much in the way of a challenge for each other. That's Billy Smith as well back there, hanging along. Looks like we got a little something happening between 5th and 6th in the GT Pros. This is to Bo ahead of Intilli. Also bringing along Booth and Turcotte. Oh, and never mind. We might go down to 3 cars because that was Intilli who just blew the first chicane, had to go through the tire barriers, and he might be able to latch onto the back of them. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks like he's able to just keep within there about maybe a second back of Turcotte, so that's enough to sort of take advantage of the draft. But at the same time, Turcotte getting a really good run right up ahead of him on Booth there, so watch for that to be something to develop. There you can see 1-2, that Corvette and BMW swinging by your screen. This certainly has the potential to be a good battle as they work their way now down through this wonderful wooded section.
Looks like we had an incident for Wilson, unfortunately, and he will fall to last in class. We still have not seen Paul Darling. Not sure why he's decided not to show up today. But whatever the case, we're sad to see that he's not able to compete with our front runners. Meanwhile, we've headed over to our GTM battle, and I believe this is for 9th.
Yeah, this is between Eric Adrodo-Trujillo and Kevin O'Keefe. Kevin O'Keefe had a slowdown on the first lap exiting Tetra Rouge, so that's why he is back from his 8th place starting position. He's made his way back up to 10th. But unfortunately, he's having a hard time getting past Eric ahead of him. Eric seems to be fairly good in the braking zones, but Kevin seems to be better on the exits of the corners. So Kevin already flashing his lights trying to get by, but Eric's not really keen on moving.
As we hop on board, Kevin O'Keefe, man, the tempers are flaring, and they are bickering back and forth as they run down the backstretch at 170 miles an hour, breaking into the corner. O'Keefe, the same reason that we heard before from Morad, just wanting to try and work together to catch the cars ahead. And Dominic Dornenberg is the one that they are trying to close in on up in 8th. They got about a second and a half to do that.
Yeah, working together is really important here at Le Mans, especially in these larger, boxier GTM machines. They need to work together to stay in the draft count ahead of them. That's why we've seen some of the guys having problems before up towards the front of the pack. That's why we see Ryan Wash and Jeremy Rose. They've been swapping positions as well for 3rd and 4th, trying to catch back up to Joey Atterbury and Kevin Santana. But Santana's not giving Atterbury any break at all. He's making Joey Atterbury lead this race. So while everyone else is working together, Kevin Santana is on a fuel-saving strategy himself. But as you saw right there, Kevin O'Keefe getting passed by Eric Adrodo-Trujillo one more time as they start to do the swap back and forth to try and save fuel and make some extra time up on the straights.
We've jumped up to our leaders, Atterbury and Santana, through the S's. Oh, but we've had a problem with Luke Carboneau. Did he get a slowdown penalty here or what? Oh, you know what? He cut Mulsanne corner way too much. There it is, right there. And he has to pay the piper. He knows it. He pulls off the racing line and lets both David Williams and Carter Kundinger stream away from him.
And just that little bit, that'll be enough to cost you, as now you see this battle continuing to develop, working their way out of Arnage and down back towards these curves. These guys are super, super close, trying to keep it in there. There's enough of a draft to get it going as you dived into the Porsche curves, but believe me, you do not want to be the one making the pass through there. That is a one-way ticket to danger.
No doubt about that as we watch Kundinger and Williams keeping at it. This is for 6th position in the prototype class through the Porsche curves into karting. This is the last of it before they come to the chicane. Maison Blanche, pretty much a non-corner for this pair. Williams on a recovery drive essentially at this point, but at least he's got a longer race. Again, it's the endurance format here appropriately with 90 minutes instead of 60. Oh, in the first third.
And we've got a development in the GTM class. I believe Joey Atterbury got a slowdown exiting Tetra Rouge, and he's very slow on the track now as he goes down the Mulsanne straight. He's just gotten passed by Ryan Wash as well. So Joey Atterbury in the GTM class from the lead of the race down to 3rd, and a good 2.5 seconds back at Kevin Santana now.
I went back and watched, and it didn't look all that atrocious about him going off there. I'd be shocked if this is actually him trying to save fuel, or him serving as slowdown, because he had to give up so much there. Looks like he'll settle into 3rd place between Wash and Rhodes.
That's a tough break for Atterbury, who was leading the race. Possibly a slowdown earlier on the lap, but Kevin Santana, now that fuel-saving strategy is out the window. He's going to have to figure out something else and adapt his strategy in order to make it further in this race.
Now up at the front, Romagnolo still ahead of DeVries, but Billy Smith, for a brief moment, was right underneath the gearbox of that number 89. They are starting to deal with a little bit of the lap traffic, but they're so spread out at this point. In a track like Le Mans, it's practically a non-issue.
It is. It's not like you're running over each other like you do sometimes at Road Atlanta, but these guys are really starting to bunch up even so, because even as the leader, what you can do is you can take advantage of the draft in front of you and really start to get a good run that way, but these three drivers really pulling in tight.
And Kuntinger is off. This is in the second chicane. Let's see if we can look at this. He was very close to Williams, but I don't think they touched.
It was just pressure from Williams as he was going through the corner. Williams trying to, once again, on his recovery drive, and just the pressure made Carter Kuntinger brake a little bit too hard, ends up locking up the inside left rear, and that's what sends him around.
Paid the price for that mistake as we once again look at our leaders. And DeVries, oh man, having to make some risky moves into Indianapolis past David Perry and Chris Sherburne, just to try and keep up with Giuliano Romagnolo. Oh, and he's going to have to split some of our GT cars. Gutsy move from the number 19. Our leader is pulling no punches and somehow managing to make it through cleanly. DeVries does as well. Billy Smith does not manage as great of a run through that traffic. He falls back to about a second and a half, but the top two are in a hurry.
They are in all kinds of a hurry trying to get through that lap traffic. Romagnolo not putting anything to chance. They're just absolutely going for it, but they're about to launch up behind another line of those GT amps. Kevin O'Keefe, Dominic Dunberg, and Shane Hunter. There they go up the inside on the tail end before they get to the Ford chicane. So that's a lucky break there for them that they're not going to catch it. But once again, Billy Smith completely caught out behind those cars in this tight, twisting section of track.
Our leaders just came together. Sorry to interrupt. DeVries had a much better exit than Romagnolo, and he got into the back of him, flashing his lights. Let's take another look at this. I think Giuliano just sent it too hot into the chicane. Watch this. Oh, yeah. He
just got really deep in there. Wiggled at the end and came into the back there. And you mentioned it, Jason DeVries really showing his displeasure with that, shaking his lights. I'm looking at his car right now. It doesn't look like there's any damage to it, but certainly not something you want to see with still over an hour left to go in this race.
I think he may have gotten away with it because it was a very light touch, but it certainly gave him a scare onto the backstretch. He's lost some ground, probably lost the slipstream as they gain Hunter in the GT Pro car. So once again, having to duck and weave in and out of the GT traffic. Our prototypes are finding things getting that little bit more frantic as they start to approach the first of their pit stops.
They'll be starting to draw in on it here, I would say, between the next 10 to 15 minutes, and that will certainly be a decision with such a long track like this. It is going to be massive if you can make that undercut work, but a brief moment of breathing here for your leaders of Romagnolo, DeVries, and Smith, as they don't have any of that lap traffic to deal with on this part of the Mulsanne. They are able to just keep on motoring and keep on going, but a little bit coming up again.
Now, we've got a bit of a fight happening for third place here in, actually, this is for prototypes. I saw multiple ones going on. This is for fourth here between Morad and Wolf. Remember, they were tussling earlier on. Wolf right on the gearbox with Williams approaching now, too. My goodness. Williams already looking at potentially getting into the top 5 and ducking underneath on the exit of Mulsanne corner, making great use of his knowledge of this track, but he starts to fall back. Josh Wolf just accelerating away. He's going to give the slipstream to the number 01, and he's going to be able to get to the inside. Will he have to outbrake him into Indianapolis? They're both gaining on Morad, our fourth place driver ahead of them, and Wolf is not willing to risk it. He backs out.
I think that's a smart move, but they're going to get up a little bit closer. Almost contact there between Wolf and Morad, as looked like Morad got really back. Oh, and there is contact in Arnage.
And Wolf says, thank you very much. While you two are having fun, I am going to get into fourth and say goodbye. Morad, if he was angry with Wolf before, he's going to be steaming at Williams.
Yeah, and Morad just outbroke himself, unfortunately, so that's what the problem was. Williams just getting caught out by that, ending up getting pushed wide. He's going to have to make all that work again.
Things are way crazier than I anticipated, especially at a track like this where I would have thought that drivers would just be settling in like we've been hearing some of the complaining to do. Meanwhile, we've come back to another one of our prototypes here. Morad and Williams still watching those two.
Yeah, Williams just got caught behind Joey Atterbury, the third-place driver in GTM. That's Wolf and Morad flying away ahead of him, so he had to wait for behind Atterbury in order to get past them. So this battle in the prototypes now separated once again.
Out of the Dunlop chicane. Morad riding behind. He knows that there is a lot of work to do from here. He's already had work to do from his qualifying. Clearly thinks that he's got pace to get something better out of this, but he's been having a tough time of it today. On to the Mulsanne straight once more, and they should be close to about an hour left the next time they come across the start-finish line. As all this has been happening, De Vries and Romaniello continue to run at the front of the field, just separated by half a second.
And Joe, just an update. The battle we saw between Eric Drapeau and Kevin O'Keefe ended in misery, with Drapeau catching the grass, entering into the Porsche curves. He is now in pit lane trying to get back to the pits, whereas Kevin O'Keefe had to tow. So that battle ended in tears.
Sad to see, especially after Kevin's great qualifying. So yeah, extensive damage on those cars, unfortunately. So it's pretty much day done. This is Kevin Santana that you can see coming down the Mulsanne with a 2.2 second lead over Atterbury, who has overtaken Wash since we were last looking. Atterbury probably eager to try and get back with Kevin Santana, especially after Kevin got all the benefit of using his draft to save fuel.
Yeah, he's definitely going to want to get back up there, but unfortunately he's got no help to get up there, no drafting partners.
Sorry, we've got a pass for the lead in the prototypes. For the first time, De Vries seems like he's had enough of following, and he's going to go right on by Romaniello down into Indianapolis, just easy as you like. The number 19 now has a different view in front of him.
They can go by looking like it's easy there for Jason De Vries. I think Romaniello probably let him by. You know, this may be a case of these two working together, looking in their rearview mirror, seeing Billy Smith start to work their way up on him. They want to start to pull ahead. So not a lot of battle there necessarily, but these two certainly keeping it close.
Through the Porsche curves. Is this a sign that De Vries wants to pit this lap? Usually we see drivers who have been waiting and saving fuel try to get that track position just before they come in. So as they exit the Corvette curves, past Maison Blanche and up towards the pit entry. No, he will stay out for this lap. But our leader does not. He's too quick into the pit lane. I believe that is going to be an unsafe pit entry penalty for Giuliano Romaniello. That is catastrophic to his hopes for a win.
Oh my goodness gracious, of all the things to happen to our leader, just that little bit of left rear tire onto the grass. We'll have to see if he's going to be forced to hold here for extra time or what happens, but I think you are right, Joe, as David Williams from the back of the field currently there sets the fastest lap of the race.
As he's fighting with Josh Wolf. and they've both been passed by Daniel Morad, so that contact they had earlier has not changed much of this battle. They're all still together. Wolf gets overtaken. Williams back up to P4. I can also report Kundinger, Haley, and Major have also pitted.
So Steven Jeffrey and Mo Islam once again in the GT Pro series, the GT Pro class as well, so they're going to try a different fuel strategy for that class.
Roman Yolo is in and out, so maybe he got away with it. That's about a 30-second stop. I'm pretty certain that is about a regular stop time.
He is a lucky boy.
Yeah, he really is. Let's take a look at our only driver in the GT Pros to have been on the podium for both races, Kevin Binkley. He's still on the podium. He's in second currently.
And there you see him currently getting chased by Young Park in that Porsche, trying to tuck up behind the draft here as they make their way through the woods here to Indianapolis, trying to get it all nice and even. Everything looking good. Is Young gonna have a look? No, but he's gonna have a great angle through that corner. It's gonna let him close up ever so slightly, but there you see the acceleration of that Corvette really start to come into play. So these cars very evenly matched here, tit for tat at different parts of the track.
Binkley with a decent exit, so he's not going to be challenged this time. And David Williams has just overtaken Daniel Morad for third place. Things are very fierce here in the prototypes, especially among these three that we've been checking on here and there all throughout the broadcast in this first half hour of racing. I'd be very curious to hear what they have to say after the race is over, so hopefully we'll get at least one of them on the podium and we can have a chat to see what they think of what's been happening so early on. I am utterly shocked that the racing looks like this at this stage.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see just how aggressive everyone is being. We have so much more time left. We just went underneath an hour to go. So these drivers have another hour left in this race to try and improve their chances here. So all this early aggression is quite surprising. I'm not surprised from David Williams, who started the race kind of out of place all the way back down in that 11th position, and he's been able to climb his way up to 4th now. But it's from some of the people who were more or less in the right spot where I'm a little bit more surprised to see all that aggression. We're just seeing Eric Intilli and Jimbo Pfeiffer into the pit lane for the GT Pro class as they start to do their pit stops.
And in the background, you might notice that the number 89, our new leader, Jason DeVries, is also in. So looks like he'll be followed by Billy Smith. I'm not too shocked that pretty much everybody else in the prototypes has to finally take their first of 2 scheduled fuel stops. And remember, DeVries is in a fight with Romagnolo on strategy, so while they are separated on track right now, it'll all depend on how quickly DeVries can get in and out. Down into the first chicane, we watch the blue and white machine of Binkley being chased by the green and black car of Young Park. This is Corvette versus Porsche.
It's a good battle that we've seen play out here at the circuits as the start of time and time again. That Corvette really able to take full advantage of good acceleration, but that Porsche right behind has great top speed, and you can see it here, Joe. Closing in for Park. I don't know if he's going to have enough to make it work into that second chicane. He is not, but watch the vet here off the line. Whoop, there it goes.
They've got to get that corner exit a little bit better, Young Park does, in order to try and get that opportunity on Binkley. Binkley's just got enough of a run on Park on the exits of these corners to make sure that Park can't get alongside in the braking zone.
Stay with this, but I can update you that DeVries is 3 seconds ahead of Romagnolo despite similar pit stop times. So DeVries must have just been better on in and out laps. Smith returns in 3rd, as Williams is in 4th after all that was said and done. Meanwhile, we continue to watch these GT Pro leaders fight for 2nd place. They go by the car of Ryan Robertson in the GT AMS. Easily lets them by.
easily lets them by, and Young Park looked like he may be able to close up there for a little bit, going through the right-hander before Indianapolis. Not enough to make a move. It really and truly just looks like that Binkley's got the edge on him here where it counts. Park not able to close when he needs to. Exactly. There may be a little bit of strategy here, but I gotta think that he's just struggling to get by that vet at this point.
Still so much of the race left to go. Anything can happen because we've already seen plenty of odd things go down. Now, we might be hearing that Olivier Turcotte has had an issue. I'm trying to find him.
Yeah, he outbraked himself going into Indianapolis, locked up the front tires, I believe. No, it was the rear tires. He almost spun that thing around. That's a major hit into the wall there for Turcotte.
Here we go on board with Turcotte. You can see it, just as you said, Adam. Jumps a little bit too much of that curve. I think that threw him off and just locks and, right into the wall.
Wow, it happened so fast, too, the way that the car just snapped on him. Not much time to react to that. Meanwhile, Binkley and Park have both come into pit lane, along with our leader, Brian Bennett.
So that's all three of your leading GT Pro cars, and behind them, Ross Booth and Thibault all coming in as well. Looks like this is going to be the time for these GTs to pit. It's now just going to be a battle of these virtual pit crews to see who can hit the marks best and get off and on their way the fastest. Almost everybody coming in here.
Yeah, I think they've stretched it as far as they can go. Bow is in. Turcotte, who will probably need a few repairs on top of things, is on to pit lane. It's a long stop, though. Bennett finally gets going at about 24 seconds, so our leader in the 161 is back out and running. Not much of a challenge between himself and Binkley. They were so far apart. Binkley, though, ahead of Young Park. Let's see if he gained anything. If he did, it's not a whole lot. Yeah, it looks like he's a few car lengths farther away from him.
Yeah, he is. So I think better getting down to the marks there for Binkley, but we'll have to see what the draft does for Park when we get down to Mulsanne and starts to pull in, if he can make that top speed work, or maybe just being this far away, we'll be able to see Binkley start to stretch the legs of that vet and start to pull away a little bit.
Also worth noting, as I look at our overall leaders, De Vries came out 3 seconds ahead of Romagnolo. It's now up to 4.2, so maybe I wonder if Jason has better pace when they aren't sharing the slipstream and is just simply leaving Romagnolo in the dust. Meanwhile, Morad, who I think had to take a little bit of extra time potentially to do some repairs, is now stuck in a battle with Carter Kundinger instead. He was with Wolf and Williams earlier.
And Joe, it looks like our leaders in the GTN class are in. Kevin Santana, Joey Atterbury both pulling in, and I believe everyone else is going to follow as well. Kevin Santana, Joey Atterbury, both in position from where they started. Ryan Wash has made his way up a couple of spots there, but the big news really is Joey Stiefel, who's going to be coming around very shortly. He's made his way up 7 positions from his starting position of 15th all the way up to 8th in that class. But between Kevin and Joey, it was about 2.5 seconds, so I'll be interested to see whether Kevin saved enough fuel to be able to short fuel on this stop and maybe go a little farther.
You see Stiefel heading onto the lane.
And the answer is yes, Joe, he did. Joey Atterbury about a second longer in the stall than Kevin Santana. So Kevin Santana doing a great job of doing that fuel saving behind Joey Atterbury during that first stint, is able to get an even bigger lead overall.
He's been around this league for many years at this point, so Santana knows how the game works and is clearly using every edge he can to his advantage. He's just got to bring it home ahead of him for 52 more minutes is the thing. And did Park catch back up to Binkley? He may have lost a little bit in the pit lane exchange, but he's already run him down and overtaken him. Young up into P2. Maybe not
but
long.
Binkley's not going away that quietly. Oh, yeah, maybe he is. He thought about diving down to the inside there and then thought better of it. A little bit of a lock up there coming into Indianapolis, but Park gets a little bit too much of the gravel. Doesn't seem to affect him. You can start to see that Porsche starts to stretch its legs now. Move Park up into the second place. Binkley chasing behind in third.
Man, I've had to take that kink into Indianapolis in these GTLM cars before, and I don't know how anybody can have the bravery to try and go too wide through there in these things. It always scared the willies out of me. As they come up to the Porsche curves, Binkley lost a little bit of time through that. So he's got 5 or 6 car lengths to try and run back down. Let's see if the Corvette is able to work through the Porsche curves any quicker, or maybe the Corvette curves will help him instead.
We'll have to see if the name favors either of them as they come their way out of here. Looks like as they go along, it's going to stay just about where it was, though.
And that is our leader overall, Jason DeVries, who just went between them. As we look at them coming onto the front stretch, you can see Jason just finding his way around. So he's just about past all of the GT pros, just one more to go. And that will be his first run through our GT pack of cars. Still tight between Park and Binkley for that second place. They've got more prototypes to try and deal with coming through. Now, here's two we haven't really looked at, I don't think, at all this race. This is for 10th in the GTMs. David Perry and Dale Green, along with, looks like Chris Sherburne. Yeah, that is also for position just behind them, with the Ferrari chasing the Audi and the Merc.
Absolutely, yeah. Dale Green's not had the greatest race. Unfortunately, he got caught up in the incident between Kevin O'Keefe and Erica Jojo. So he's a little bit out of position right now, but he did just get passed by David Perry recently on this lap. So I think Dale Green's going to be a little frustrated, but he might have a little bit of damage from that incident, hence why he might be a little bit slow in a straight line. But he's still putting the pressure on Perry up ahead. But let's see whether or not Green is going to do a little bit of fuel saving here himself, or whether he decides to make the move. Chris Sherburne in the double draft behind them is gaining quite a bit, so expect him to be right on the back of them by the time they hit Indianapolis.
In fact, he backs out a little bit here, does Dale Green, breaks a little early. And see, this is what I'm more used to seeing in this series, especially at this track where there's not all these wild dives every single time. They kind of take the discretionary route and decide to go a little bit safe, as we saw both Green and Sherburne just do. Out of Arnage, David Perry continues to hold on to the last spot of the top 10. And the GTMs, we hop on board with a Ferrari of Chris Sherburne.
Yeah, one thing that's important to remember as a competitor is that awesome last lap pass we saw last week in the prototypes, that happened on the last lap on the last turn. That's when the risk was worth the reward for the prototype leader. And, you know, you get in there under the hood and you get in the cockpit, you really want to put a fight to the guys up ahead of you. Duke it out position for position, but you got to remember this race is an hour and a half long and you're only about halfway through it at this point, so there's a lot of time to be made up in being a little bit calmer, a little bit more collected, and trying to make the pass in a place that's not going to cost you a lot of time, rather than battling side by side with a guy and costing you a ton of time that may come back to bite you later after a pit stop cycle.
Off of the final chicane and onto the front stretch once more. By the way, I've been keeping half an eye, let's stay here, but I've been keeping half an eye on Romagnolo and Billy Smith. The 901 has caught our second place driver. I don't think he's intent on really trying to pass currently, but Romagnolo continuing to struggle to not only stay up with our leader, but keep those behind him from becoming a threat.
Yeah, Joe, I was watching that as well. Smith has really been able to just start to bring him in. There you see it on your screen. Now it looks like Romagnolo is starting to pull away a little bit, but that's about the biggest gap I've seen between the two of them in 5 minutes. Some of that was due to some GT traffic that they caught around Tetra Rouge and right where they are on track right now that let that gap shrink in. But a lot of it was just Smith, I think, really clawing up some time.
Guys, do you think that Jason DeVries is having an easy he almost had an incident with himself and Jared Eaton. Jared Eaton being in 16th place in the GTM class as they went through the final turn of the course onto the straightaway. So he had to brake hard to avoid Jared Eaton, who was off in the grass and speared across the track. So DeVries still heads up. He's not able to relax, even with a 3-second gap ahead of Roman Willow.
That explains why it went from a 4-second gap to a 3-second gap so quickly. Obviously having to give a little bit up to save the car on that one. And there in the background, that is Roman Yolo in the number 19, the yellow car in the background giving chase.
Let's see here. Smith starting to claw him in, using that GT3 car as a draft to try to pull himself forward. He's going to get a little bit closer to Romagnolo through that final chicane on the Mulsanne. Not enough, not anywhere near enough to make a move, obviously, but he is starting to get there. I think when it comes to lap traffic, Smith just has a better sense for how to get around. It seems like Romagnolo is a little bit more prone to get caught up.
Also, Adam, you've got your eyes on something I've been kind of looking at here and there, and that's Carter Kundinger and Daniel Morad, who've actually been having a bit of a back and forth themselves. So Daniel Morad is still very much enjoying himself on the track, it seems.
Yeah, Morad having a great time out there battling with Carter Kundinger. Both of these guys have had their share of side-by-side moments with other drivers out here, but Morad and Kundinger now battling with each other on track after this pit stop. So Kundinger, it seems to have the corner exits a little bit more nailed down. Morad seems to be struggling a bit himself with getting traction down that corner exit. Seems to be very loose in that machine. So unfortunately for him, he's starting to fall back a little bit, but it seems like he's got a lot of straight line speed in that number 50 prototype, that number 50 P2 machine, and that's why he can climb back onto the back of Carter Kundinger after the long straights.
Oh, whoa! And sorry, as we went away, a car went off. That was Jared Eaton again, and he got clipped by Daniel Morad, unfortunately. Great avoidance, however, by Carter Kundinger.
And Morad just made the pass on Kundinger. So when we go to this replay, let's stick it out through Indianapolis because things keep getting interesting here. Well, let's take a look at this one more time.
So you're going to see Eaton unfortunately lose it coming through Indianapolis. There he is right there. Oof. And gets a big piece of him. I guess it wasn't enough to cause much damage because, as you said, he's going to be able to make the pass now right into Arnage.
Yeah, and there it just looked like a little bit of Kundinger just kind of losing control going into Arnage, but now he is starting to chase back on Morad. There you see Morad running just a hair, or that's Romagnolo, excuse me, who's Smith really able to close down on him over that last lap. You see that gap now shrinking down to under a second, roughly about 6/10 right now.
As they come out of Tertre-Rouge, they have lost it up to 4.5 seconds to Jason DeVries, who's been running a masterful race so far. Looks like two drivers that we were watching in a bit of a fight earlier. Mo Islam, actually, no, this is Mo just coming back through the GTM traffic. He's just overtaken Ryan Wash. Mo caught up in that incident that we saw with Paul Slavonic very early in the race, tangling with each other, coming down towards Indianapolis and hitting the wall at very high speed. Oh, and did Billy Smith just have a go at Roman Yolo? He did.
He did indeed, Joe. He tried to make it on the second chicane into the second chicane off of Mulsanne. Wasn't able to get it done. But here you see he's got a great slipstream going down into the Mulsanne hairpin. Can he make it work? No, he's going to back off. Maybe think about the over-under. No, he's going to keep everything cool and collected. Gets a little bit of a wider line. I think that's going to carry him maybe a half a tenth of a mile an hour faster as they make the way now towards Indianapolis. This could be now or never time for Billy Smith.
He's closing in once again. This is multiple attempts. Almost makes contact with Romagnolo as he is looking for some sort of opening, but it's just not there. It's a narrow track here.
Oh, no.
Way off the line. Giuliano Romagnolo gets shaken into the barriers.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant from Billy Smith, just putting the pressure down where he needs to and forcing Romagnolo into a mistake, moves Smith up one positions, and Joe, that is all head games right there. Kudos to Billy Smith.
And this bumps Williams up to the podium now. So he's back to close to where he started this race, 6 seconds behind our leader. Now, I do believe that Williams, when I looked last, was 11 seconds behind DeVries. So I think David is actually running faster laps than our leader currently.
Yeah, Williams has been running faster laps than DeVries right now, so Williams doing an excellent job, and with only 7 seconds behind them, he's really closing significantly. But look at this battle once again. This is between Binkley and Park, still inseparable on track.
That was Kudrowski you saw off track. Just one of our GT AMs unfortunately spun it. And Binkley still giving chase, seeing if he could try and overtake Park for P2. They know they've lost out to Bennett here. There's not much use in trying to close down on the leader because they've been working together relatively well up until now. So past the halfway point, the game is on.
It is indeed, and these guys have not just stayed stationary in this order. They've been swapping back and forth and back and forth. This is about the biggest gap I have seen Young Park been able to pull out. As there you see, that is Luke Peterson working his way around Binkley as Park works his way around Nick Leash, I believe.
Yeah, excuse me. For a second, I thought he was managing to overtake him. I looked away at the wrong time. And you're right, that is Tim McLeish. Along with Leif Peterson. Big, costly moment for Binkley. It's gone up to 1.8 seconds up to Young Park just from that one exchange with the traffic. Now, will it pay it back to him? Because Peterson's catching up to him in what could be a bit of an awkward place. This is through the Chapel Rundown and into the Forest S's. Peterson's going to play patient here, it seems.
That'll be a sigh of relief for Young Park that he doesn't have to deal with that, but Leif Peterson's showing a lot of patience here. You see him taking a little bit of a more narrow line off of Tetra Rouge. He is able to do that LMP2 generating a little bit more downforce flash of the lights there. I think that's a thank you from Young Park from not trying to force a move. And now that gap has stabilized back to about 2 seconds between the two.
Let's look at Morad and Kundinger, because I think they switched around yet again. Morad now in 7th, Kundinger into 8th position.
I mean, look at Morad's attitude of the machine. Every time he comes off of a corner, he's got that thing sideways. Daniel Morad really struggling with the power application. Carter Kundinger now seems to have a good grasp of his car. He's coming with quite a head of steam as they head towards Mulsanne corner, but Morad's going to try and brake later. Let's see whether he can get a good exit here because Kundinger is going to have to try and put some pressure on.
They pick up speed, already 170 miles an hour, and you can see how quickly they flash past the GTM cars. Dominic Dorenberg just looking like he's standing still, and then Matt Owens staying off to the right. Kundinger reels him in with the slipstream, runs out of straightaway by the time they hit Indianapolis. Both of them cleanly in there and cleanly out.
You can see just how fidgety that car is trying to get the power down. Hoi, 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 from Morad. Just absolutely anytime he presses that loud pedal, it seems like the rear tires want to just spin and move out from under him, working their way around some more lap traffic. Adam, you hit the nail on the head. Morad really struggling with that car.
He's struggling, but he's fast. Here they come around Dawson Brock. They're going to hold them up a little bit here. Kundinger and Mora trying to figure out where to go. Dawson Brock just trying to take his apexes. He gets pushed a little bit wide there, but Kundinger and Mora are going to be able to get past, but that was a close moment between them.
Great heads up by Dawson Brock. Plenty of multi-class experience from the number 83. Just gave him enough space to keep everybody in one piece. Kundinger now sees another chance as they come up to Shane Hunter here. Hunter watching out the rearview mirror. Thankfully, they're not going to catch him until the front stretch, so easily getting by off to the right side. And then they've got some clear track.
And Morad really able to pull away there a little bit, able to take advantage of the draft ever so slightly as they come up their way to the Dunlop Bridge. It just looks like whenever they get up to full speed, Morad really able to pull away. Obviously, the Constantina effect coming into play, but he's got a little bit of play.
Meanwhile, David Williams and Billy Smith are now changing position up into second place, back to where he started this race. David Williams, this is the drive of the race, if you ask me. Just jaw-dropping stuff from the 01, and he's still got 7 seconds to go, but a half an hour to do it. So let's see, try to do the math on how much faster per lap he needs to be to try and catch Jason to get to the end. Last few were 327s mostly, and 329 for Williams. Mostly 329s for Jason DeVries, and then 327. That actually might do it.
Yeah, Jason's going to have to turn up the wick for sure if he's going to want to stay ahead of David Williams. I think he's going to be cursing himself now when he looks at the relative and sees David's right behind him. That's going to be something he did not expect to see at all, especially considering David's unfortunate event at the beginning of the race.
So I'm curious though, is Smith going to try and hold on and fight him? Or will he actually have to drop back just due to a lack of pace now that Williams has gotten by? Let's not forget about Roman Yolo back there behind Billy Smith. After his mistake, he could try and catch up and make this a three-way fight for second. They break into Indianapolis while Smith does hold on a little bit. Going through the Porsche curves here in just a moment will probably be the most telling on if he can hang.
1,000%, Joe. You see the exit there from Arnage, and anytime they come off of one of those slow corners, it looks like Williams is able to pull away just a little bit more from Billy Smith. Just a little bit more acceleration there in that leading car, but now they're diving in through the curves. Here is the telling point. The gap right now is about 0.8 of a second. Let's see what it is on the other side. It's already up to a second.
Yeah, I'm afraid that Billy Smith might not have enough in the technical portions. Yeah, he is definitely lost a considerable bit here. 1.1 second out of their 0.3 in that part alone.
Oh, yeah, Roman Yolo's in the pits.
Sending it in hard and barely holds on to it. Yeah, we're at 33 minutes left to go. So he might have to fuel save a little bit, but I think he can get there from here.
I think he should be able to, and you know, it looks like and if I'm in his shoes, I'm seeing Smith and Williams start to pull away from me. Trying the undercut here may be the way to go, but I gotta think that trying to, you know, manage out over the course of 2 stints rather than doing a mega save on this last stint would help him better, but there's a reason I'm not in the car, Joe, and we'll have to see what Roman Yolo can think to do.
Yeah, he knows more than we do about what's happening with the car. He could also be dealing with damage. Maybe it's a case of he's getting worse fuel mileage. Carter Kundinger is also going to elect to join him, stopping on this lap. Also, apparently sadly lost Dawson Brock as he is spun and hit the wall, deciding to call it a day from his damage. This is our number 89 of Jason DeVries. Still 7 seconds ahead of David Williams. Last lap for Jason. Wow, he's turned up the wick. 26.6 for him. Compare that to a 26 flat for David Williams, so still about half a second faster for the 01.
Yeah, it's blistering pace for those two guys in the front of the field. Impressive to see those lap times continue to climb downward, especially as we get further on in this race. It's 3:02 in virtual sim time, and the track temperature is still a very calm 73 degrees out there for these guys. So not that hot for them, but it actually might be a little cool, to be honest, Joe.
Yeah, there you see the temperatures, and thankfully a lack of wind out here today in France. So it should be pretty ideal. I think we've got a couple more pitters, David Warner and Mike Major, and the prototypes are now in.
We've had a couple of pitters in the GTMs as well. We've had Joe Stiefel come in and David Sockrider as well. Our leader now in the GTM, still Kevin Santana, and he's pulled the gap on Joey Atterbury by about 8.5 seconds. So Atterbury's been falling off on this second stint here. And then Jeremy Rhodes is another 6.5 plus seconds behind. So the top three in the GTM class separated by by about 20 seconds here. So Kevin Santana could do a little bit of fuel saving himself up at the front of the field and try and extend this stint a little bit himself. So he's got a lot of room to play with.
It's probably, you'd argue, his to lose at this point. And Santana has already taken a win, managed to snag one at Daytona, finished third at Sebring. Looking to go 2 for 3 potentially as we watch our 666 car come up to Arnage once again. Still, there's been a number of spins and wrecks all over the course that have come dangerously close to a number of front runners before in this race. So you really cannot count your chickens until they have hatched. Up at the top of the GT Pros, the 161 of Brian Bennett. Even bigger gap here in this one compared to the GTMs. Young Park 10.7 seconds behind.
Yeah, and that gap between him and Brinkley really starting to separate out. But up in LMP1, Joe, Billy Smith has elected to pop into the pits, challenging Romagnolo's early pit time, so he clearly sees something there as well. But Bennett here really just able to keep everything nice, cool, and collected. I think he was able to take full advantage of that battle between Park and Brinkley and pull out this pretty big gap that he's got going right now.
So where is he going to be in terms of Romagnolo, though? Because I believe Smith was challenging them. There he goes on his way out. Romagnolo has a poor exit from the chicanes. And yeah, Smith is going to be well clear of him. Still waiting on DeVries, Williams, and Wolf to pit. What's wild about this is Williams has been in the pit lane twice, but remember he had that early stop. I wonder if that was because of the cut course that he just had to do a drive-through or something there. The fact that he is still this close to our leader, which, by the way, still is coming down. It's 5.3 seconds. Oh, I mean, my goodness, can anything stop him?
I don't think so at this point, Joe. I mean, he is just putting stonking lap after stonking lap. 0.6 of a second better on that last lap for Williams. So he is just a man on a mission here today, not ready to give in to anything.
They work their way towards Indianapolis. Credit to Josh Wolf up to third, though I think he will have to pit and hand that third back pretty soon. I think it'll be, let's say it was Billy Smith who was holding that before the stops began.
It looks like Daniel Mora just made a pass on Luke Carbonneau exiting Mulsanne chicane, so Carbonneau just giving him this position. It wasn't much of a challenge from Carbonneau. I think Carbonneau might be on a little bit of a fuel-saving strategy to get to the end of this lap and take his pit stop. But as I say that, while we were in this replay, Morad just went off, so if we stick with this through Indianapolis, we'll see the incident. But here goes Morad around Carbonneau on the straightaway. Carbonneau not challenging him at all. He's just going to jump back in behind him and do a little bit of fuel saving here.
Sometimes in racing, you're only as good as your last race. And poor Daniel Morad, his last race was a great one, taking the victory. Today, unfortunately, going to leave a bitter taste. As there's the mistake. He just bounces off the wall. He's yet to take his stop, so he can come in to get some of those repairs, but...
our leaders are in.
Yeah, it's going to cost him as De Vries, like you mentioned, and Williams both on the lane. Now, Williams has been hustling, so has he been using more fuel than De Vries potentially here?
I would have to think so, Joe, but at the same time, even if he's got to take maybe a second more of fuel with the pace he's been running, he's still going to be very, very close. Behind him, Joshua Wolf, Carbonneau, and Morad all popping in as well.
So Billy Smith is our highest pitter currently, and he's coming through the Corvette curves, waiting for De Vries and Williams to exit out to see how that's going to pan out between them. De Vries is going, and Williams waiting. Williams actually pretty comparable, almost exactly the same time as Jason De Vries. But what about their in and outs? Is that going to cost him? Ooh, yeah, Williams lost a lot. It was down to 5 seconds. It's now up to 7.
Oh, and Williams spins!
Oh! Get it going. The 01 only clobbers the inside curves. So he could have some damage to the under tray, but otherwise, just a self-spin, maybe a little bit of embarrassment.
Yeah, just coming up through here. Looks like he put the power down just a hair early. That rear end letting a step out on him. Caught it very well. Looks like he didn't ride over the curbs too hard there, and the curbs aren't notoriously high at that portion of the track, so he may have gotten off lucky.
You have to think, though, that Williams, it's up to 12 seconds now. If he can't run down De Vries and finishes in second, that'll be 3 straight second places. He's got to be happy for the consistency, but really just wanting to get a win under his belt this season.
I mean, it'd be nice, it's not going to lie, but at the same time, Keke Rosberg won a championship without ever winning a race, so it could very well be in the cards for David Williams to do the same.
And did Roman lose his spot, or what happened here? No, he did not. Ross Booth, in the meantime, comes in from 5th position in the GT Pro class to take his final stop. Very few of our GT Pro drivers have pitted in. I see Turcotte, Pfeiffer, Jeffrey, and Rosenbaum have all pitted.
There's a nice little battle going on in the GTM class between Shane Hunter and Ryan Wash for that 4th position. These two guys just having exited Tetra Rouge, trying to sort out their positions here. They're behind the slow car of Mark Petrowski, who's 16th in class. That's Mark in the blue ahead of them. It looks like Shane's just going to let Ryan go by. With 23 minutes to go, they still have, I believe, 1 stop to go. Yes, they do. So that means that it's not quite time to start staunchly defending these positions quite yet. So Ryan Wash clearing through and ahead of Shane Hunter for 4th.
Just want to note, by the way, I mentioned Jeffrey has already taken his 2nd stop. He's down in 11th in the GT Pros. He actually took the pole and passed his lap at Sebring, and yet still came in 2nd. Today's going an even worse trajectory for him, as what was a great performance last round has kind of soured for him. I see Jerry Mueller on the lane for the GT Pros, so the 195 should be good to the end from here.
Yeah, Stephen Jeffrey in that GT Pro just has had a couple of bad incidents of bad luck. He's had to take an extra pit stop, which is one of the reasons why he's this far back, and he has some significant damage that he's nursing as well, so that's why we're seeing him that far back.
Meanwhile, battle for 2nd. Park and Binkley still fighting hard here. They're coming up behind Mark Kudrowski to get a little bit of a slipstream. They're 11 seconds behind Brian Bennett, our leader in that class. It's a guy that I'm sure is very happy to have not all that much in the way of coverage today. These two, though, will certainly begin getting plenty of camera time.
They have, and well-deserved, as they have just been swapping back and forth. As now Young Park leads over Kevin Brinkley as they work their way down, but Park in a bag to exit there out of Indianapolis, kicking up a lot of dirt from those Porsche rear tires. Wide entrance line or exit line there from Binkley trying to hold it down. That's going to cost him a lot of time as they make their way towards the Porsche curves here. But here comes the other problem for Park. He's going to catch some traffic as they work their way through these sweepers. May not be exactly perfect, able to dispatch that Shane Hunter, but it looks like now Binkley's going to have to deal with it.
Through the Porsche curves. And yeah, that's a really awkward spot. And Binkley is going to have to go around the outside just to try and make it up. It's up to 1.6 seconds. Park breathing a sigh of relief after how much pressure he's been put under this race by Kevin Binkley. Still, Binkley going to be able to hold potentially that streak of podiums so far. Santana, our leader in the GT AMS, is now on the lane. So is Young Park and Kevin Binkley.
As well as Brian Bennett, the leader of the GT Pro class. Kevin Santana, though, very clean stop. Only 18 seconds. Fuel only for Kevin Santana in the GT AMS. DJ?
As you see these three GT Pro drivers making their way down, this is that battle between Park and Binkley going to continue here on pit lane. We'll have to see what happens as Brian Bennett gets out and underway. That massive lead for the GT Pro driver looking to continue as he makes his way off of the lane.
So what about Park? Park is done, and Binkley's now done. So all three of our podium runners in the GT Pro class are able to make it to the finish from here, but what did the pit stops do to the gaps between them? We'll wait for the timing and scoring to update. Oh, and has Ross Booth already taken his stop? I think he has.
Yes, he has.
Ross Booth has jumped them, or at least one of them. He's gotten past Binkley, but he hasn't jumped Park.
Park's 4 seconds up the road. Binkley had a slow stop. He was about 5 seconds slower than Booth.
He did. Binkley's stop was very, very rough, and that's also allowed for Marc-Antoine Thibault to catch up behind him. He's only about 7 tenths back from Binkley. So this is a really nice three-car battle now. Booth, Binkley, and Thibault all separated on track by about a second or 1.2.
Who's going to come home last on the podium? Binkley just may have jinxed him, saying he could continue his streak of podium finishes in the GT Pro class. He's going to have to fight hard for it here, and Marc-Antoine Thibault, I think, had a mistake, because now he's suddenly well far back, about 3 seconds behind them.
Yeah, I think something happened to him either in Tetra Rouge or in the first Mulsanne chicane. He just looks like he is absolutely crawling coming off there. But here comes the pass from Binkley on Booth. There he goes into the second chicane. He's got it done and dusted. Move him up one spot.
I don't know about done and dusted. I don't think Booth is going to take that one sitting down. We criticized drivers earlier for swapping back and forth, going at it so hard. Now's the time that it all needs to be thrown out the window. The risks can be taken. Booth knows it, but still he bides his time and backs out of it before Mulsanne corner.
I mean, we still got about 17 and a half minutes here to go. If I'm Ross Booth, I've got to be thinking about just how tricky it is to get the car slowed fully for Mulsanne, even if it's everything nice and easy. So I think for him, that is just a discretion being the better part of valor, but he is going to start to fight back here, tucking up behind in that draft. They work their way around Matt Owens, getting ready for the right-hander before Indianapolis. Is Booth going to try anything? He's too far back, it seems, at this point, and indeed he is. They're going to say single file going through Indianapolis.
A pass did take place in the prototypes, though. Josh Wolf just went by Billy Smith, also for a podium position. So from 7th on the grid, Josh Wolf up about 4 spots here. And yeah, man, just an easy slipstream maneuver down the Mulsanne straight.
Good slipstream, good exit off of that first chicane. That's going to be it for Wolf. He is now up, and you can see it there, although it looks like Billy Smith not letting him get away too easy. Both get good exits there off of Mulsanne. Smith may be able to try to fight back here. That traffic up in front of them not going to hassle him for a little bit, though.
Joey Atterbury in the GTM class is in. That's his final stop, 2nd place in GTM. A shorter stop than Kevin Santana by 4/10. That's still going to put him out a good 6 seconds behind Kevin Santana. So Kevin flying right now. He regains the lead, I'd rather say, of the GTM class. Kevin Santana up to the top. Joey Atterbury 2nd. Jeremy Rhodes, after just having pit as well, into 3rd.
Of course, Joey Atterbury, despite being in the GTM class, is a real-world pro driver, racing in IMSA Series. 51 showing his medal here. Of course, finding that Kevin Santana might be deserving of a drive of his own the way he's been running this season, as the number 51 has about 6 seconds to make up and only 15 minutes to do it. Here's our leader, 666, coming into the first chicane on the Mulsanne. Santana's one of those as well that's probably pretty hungry too, with the amount of times that he's been just shy on championships in this class here at Autobahn.
Absolutely. He has been racing in this series for quite a long time and has been racing very close to the front of the pack. He's been 3rd, 2nd, multiple times. This could be his opportunity, but he's going to have to take the fight to real-life racing driver and Joey Atterbury, who is still learning the ins and outs of the sim and getting better every lap.
Sorry, we just had an incident between Billy Smith and Paul Slavonic. Remember, Smith was running in 4th place. He's still running in 4th, but he had a big hit to the front of the car. There's got to be major damage there. We'll have to back up. It was out of the final chicane, so it's just before this. Here we go, and really, this is just a racing incident, because poor Slavonic already has had a damaged car, and I think he lost it on his own.
Well, Billy Smith also has a damaged car. He said he had about 30 seconds of optional repair on his last pit stop, so this is only going to compound matters for Billy Smith.
Yep, too much curb for that GTM car, and there's just nowhere to go. Scoops him up. The car actually looks pretty fine, so maybe he got away lucky.
He may have, but with these prototypes, Joe, there can be a lot of hidden damage. But the way he's hustling down Mulsanne, doesn't look like he's suffering too bad. So we'll have to see.
Up in GT Pro, Young Park had a gap over Kevin Binkley, but no more. It's down to 0.5 of a second, and Ross Booth is riding the coattails of that number 75. It is indeed becoming a 3-way fight to settle out the best of the rest.
Yeah, it's a really good battle and great drive here from Booth to regain up and to make this a 3-car scrap. All 3 of these guys just absolutely perfectly matched coming up here on Jeremy Rhodes in front of them. They're going to want to try to dispatch him here before they get to the Porsche curves. I don't think they're going to be able to, and this can get real nasty depending on when they do it. This could be what decides the race here on who's able to get by at the best time.
Down into the Porsche curves, you can see how quickly they're catching the number 13. Park is definitely going to have to park it behind that car, because there's really no way to get around right here, and already those behind him are gaining hand over fist. Binkley could have an opportunity. Are they going to go 3 wide through Maison Blanche? They can't quite do it. Looks like he's going to try and take the safe route. Waits for later, shows his nose up to the Ford chicane, then comes back to the racing line.
Jeremy Rhodes in third place in the GTM, watching on as they watch Young Park, Kevin Binkley, and Ross Booth exit the final corner. Ross Booth with a good opportunity on Kevin Binkley. He can't quite get the power down as they come up towards one of the hardest braking zones on this track, in my personal opinion. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to have the advantage.
It will indeed, and that Corvette, very good under braking, but you've got to apply that brake pressure just right or it will swirl around on you. So those two Corvette drivers behind got to be careful. And there you see the multiple lines coming down past the Dunlop Bridge. Nothing doing here, but I think we're going to see some slipstreaming heaven down Mulsanne.
They are all so tightly packed together that I have to imagine, and Binkley looked like he had a poor exit off of Tertre Rouge. So Ross Booth has an easy pass up the outside with better momentum. Maybe he starts to lose a little bit of that momentum, hitting the open air now, trying to come back at him. Kevin Binkley has the inside of the corner, and indeed he's got better top end speed, trimmed out a little bit, and he's even gaining on Young Park. Almost has the chance to make the pass on the number 45. Doesn't get it done, but clearly Kevin Binkley, focusing on straight line speed, is using it to fantastic effect.
And he's starting to claw in on Park, weaving this way and that. Shows his nose a little bit, thinking about it. Don't know. Maybe he's going to try for it. He goes to the inside on the second chicane. He's gaining. They are perfectly side by side into the braking zone. And there he goes. Move Kevin Binkley up a spot. And Ross Booth now looking at the back of Young Park.
Now here's an interesting thing to note. Young Park was in front of Kevin Binkley when both Ross Booth and Binkley were side by side, but now that Park has the slipstream, he's going to have an opportunity to make the move. He's going to look to the inside of Kevin Binkley as Ross Booth looks on with even better straight line speed than both of them. They're going to be side by side as they break from Mulsanne.
Oh, but Park sends it in deeper. Can he make the apex? Has he done it? Yes, he has. Brilliant drive from the 45. And it's going to start all over again. It is long straight after long straight from much of this track.
And there is absolutely nothing between any of these drivers as they make their way down this third long straight on the track. There you see, diving to the inside ever so slightly. He's going to take a look to the inside. Here comes Binkley. Nope, he's going to think better of it. But that may open him up to Booth if he chooses to. Booth is going to get real close up behind. Not going to make the move, though. Tries to push a little to the outside going into Arnage. Nothing happening there. They're going to catch lap trap. Whoa! That was Mark Kudrowski spinning in front of them. All their hearts in their mouths at that point.
Looks like it may have cost Binkley a little bit of time slowing up to make sure he avoids the car, because he has fallen back off of Park. And Ross Booth, well, he was right behind him. He almost was given a little bit of a bump draft. So perhaps Booth thinking there's still time to play that long game, still trying to catch up, because he wants to try and get second place instead of just a third.
There you see him take a wider line through Porsche, trying to narrow up that next line, but it hurts him a little bit. Costs him about a tenth of a second through those final set of curves. They're going to line up here for the Ford chicanes. That's Joey Atterbury ahead of them, the second place GTM driver. Though it looks like at least at the minimum, Young Park is going to be able to dispatch him on the straights, hoping that Binkley and Booth will be able to do the same. Atterbury gets over to the side. Looked like he was trying to get position there, but just getting back onto the racing line now. They're not going to be able to catch up. Park looking like he's starting to pull away, thinking about diving down the of the lapped car, has to misjudge it. That's going to allow Binkley to catch back up, but Binkley gets a little squirrely coming out of the corner.
Ross Booth decides now is the time to pounce. They've gained some time on Park, and it has worked out in his favor. Booth up to third place, as they're still behind Joey Atterbury. These GTM and GT Pro cars can be pretty similar on pace sometimes. Coming off Tertre Rouge. Oh, wow, Ross Booth is looking fantastic, but he's plugged in with that lap traffic. He can't go anywhere, just has to sit behind. Oh, is he going to push him? He's going to push him.
Here comes Kevin Binkley around the outside. He's going to try and make it 3 wide, possibly. No. Oh, my goodness. It's going to be 3 wide. Jason DeVries going around the outside.
That's what I was worried about. I saw Jason DeVries coming. Remember, he's our leader. He really doesn't waste time, and he almost shoves Young Park off the racing line. Binkley sees that, says thank you for the opportunity, tries to go to the inside, and Ross Booth also coming along with him. And once again, running this NASCAR style as the 03 links up.
Somebody needs to tell those boys that those are Corvettes and not Camaros that they're running. This is fantastic. Bump drafted down the Mulsanne.
Deep into the corner, Binkley gets through. Binkley now up to P2.
I just want to give an update while we're watching this battle on Giuliano Romagnolo. Must have had some floor damage at some point because he's dropping like a rock in that prototype. Either that or he didn't fuel up enough. He's dropped all the way from 5th down to 8th position and continues to lose time. His last lap is 4 seconds slower than the leaders.
Yeah, there's got to be something wrong with that car. Out through the Mulsanne corner. Binkley leading. Can he use that extra top end speed to finally keep Park back, or is the slipstream enough for Park to deny him once more? Ahead of them, we just saw DeVries go by, so we should be getting 2 to go, I think, this time across the line.
We will indeed, as there goes David Williams by him. I thought for a second he was going to catch him right before that Indianapolis kink. Didn't happen, as Binkley now leading this pack. Park behind, Booth behind them. That is your 1, 2, 3. Joshua Wolf closing down on them in that prototype, though. Hopefully going to be able to dispatch before they get to the Porsche curves, but we'll have to wait and see. Starting to spread out ever so slightly out of Arnage. They're not nearly on top of each other as they were earlier in this lap.
By the way, after the spin that Williams had exiting the pits, he was up to 12 seconds. He's got it down to 6 seconds. I actually think this might be possible for him. Into the Porsche curves, Wolf is caught in a very awkward place. He's going to put Young Park off the racing line, and also Kevin Binkley. So it all evens right back out to how it was.
What must come up must go down once again. Everybody's still even, just about the exact same distances they were when they exited out of Arnage. Now as they dive in, ooh, Ross Booth thinking about a move down into the Ford chicane. Thinks better of it, though. They're going to go single file here. 1, 2, 3, Corvette, Porsche, Corvette coming across the line here. Oh, a little bit of a squirrely exit there for Park. It looked like that may give Booth a little bit of an opportunity as they head up to the bridge, but I don't think he's going to be able to fully capitalize.
And they're going to catch up to Kevin Santana up ahead of them. This is the leader in the GTM class. Young Park's going to try and make a move. No, he's not. He's going to wait. Kevin Binkley also thought about making a move on Kevin Santana. He's going to try and get a better exit here. Santana's going to stay to the right, but here goes Ross Booth up the inside of Young Park. He's going to try and make that move work. It's going to go the outside. It's going to be 3 wide as they go around the corner. Kevin Santana just gets out of the way.
Credit to everyone involved, but it's not over. Ross Booth a little wide at the corner. Park can't take advantage of it. Boy, the exit from the Dunlop chicane, and Park finds himself just scuppered as the 45 got too much wheel spin. Booth is passed, but can he run down Kevin Binkley and peel away that second place in these final 2 laps?
It's gonna have to depend on those corner exits that we've been watching this entire time. That is gonna need to be what it is, but bigger gaps here than we've seen. About a half a second in between the cars right now. Braking, closing under that braking. Who's gonna get the better exit off of that first chicane? It looks like that Young Park got a good one there. You can see Ross Booth going a little bit defensive.
And even out once more. 3/10 apart from one another as they pick up speed. But now that they are being led by Kevin Binkley, we've seen him be the fastest in a straight line out of the trio. Is that going to make it all the harder for them to overtake? Ross Booth doesn't think so. He's very good on the brakes and could find himself with a great chance if he can just accelerate off the second chicane. It's looking decent. I think the 03 could have a go if he wants it.
He could, but making a pass into Mulsanne, oh, it's very tricky, Joe. There are better places to do it. There you see, that's Binkley getting a little bit defensive with his line, just blocking off any potential Booth thinks about going to the inside, and he does! Ooh, they almost touch. Booth has to force off. That's going to allow Park to fight back. Watch for him to make the move.
Inches apart from one another, and still they keep going. Even an apology on the radio from Ross Booth. He knew that was marginal. Park is enjoying it because look how close he is now. He's going to try and follow Booth through, who gets to the inside on the kink of Indianapolis, but it'll be the outside for the 90-degree left-hand portion of the curve. What can he do with that? It's a game of chicken on the brakes, and Booth wins that game.
Great move from Booth there, pinning back young Park on the straight. As now they make their way through Arnage. That's Billy Smith behind them in the prototype. He's going to try to dispatch.
Meanwhile, Jason DeVries coming to the line is going to take the white flag. And unfortunately for fans of David Williams, I fear it may be over. He had a little bit of lap traffic that cost him so much time. It's back up to 10 seconds. Unless DeVries faces catastrophic happenings on this lap, it is his to lose. So as he continues on, let's jump back to the battle between Booth, Binkley, and Park. This is for second place in the GT Pro class. They've been having so much fun, it's dropped to 17 seconds back from our leader, Brian Bennett.
It has, and as Billy Smith got through them through the Porsche chicanes, it looked like it was going to close everybody up, but that was not the case. A little bit more spread out again as they cross the line here to take that white flag. About a 7/10 gap in between each of the cars now at this point. That is the calmest we have seen it, but as we have seen it before, once these guys get through Dunlop, anything can happen.
And for some reason, Carter Kundinger is unable to make it to the finish. I wonder if he's too short on fuel.
Yeah, Romagnolo also short on fuel, just as we suspected,
wow.
So he's in the pits as well. Neither of them could make it on their pit stops.
So everybody else ahead of them, though, has gone past pit entry, so they are committed. That's all of the top 7. I do believe they're going to lose some positions because it looks like Canchin's not pitting. We'll have to wait to see any cars behind them if they elect to pit. As we mentioned, the 19 of Romagnolo is going to have to wait for the fuel to finish. Canchin already by.
And look at this, Joe. Josh Wolf right on the back of Williams here for second.
Oh, when did... You know what? I wonder if Williams used up too much of his own fuel. Maybe that's why he lost the time. Is he way too tight in all of his hurry to catch Jason DeVries?
Might be the case as they power down through here. Oh, going for a very potential aggressive move there is Joshua Wolf. Not able to get anything going there. Oh, and gets squirrely off the exit there. Otherwise, he would have had a great run.
Maybe getting too eager as he smelled blood in the water. But Wolf is still got a little bit to go.
And Binkley able to get by Booth for that battle we were following. Booth had a terrible exit out of the corner. Whoo, this is getting dicey.
Almost pinches down Park as Booth does not want to give up the chance to get into that second spot. Binkley down and through the Mulsanne corner at the head of the trio.
Oh, David E. Williams locked it up coming through Indianapolis, so he's now down to third position. Jason DeVries, though, he's about to enter the Porsche curves for the last time.
That promotes Josh Wolf into second place. There is our leader, though, through bridge. Jason DeVries going to make it 3 winners out of 3 races here today as we come to the round in France here for the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Jason started this one on the pole. He said, I'm going to finish with this one in the same spot because down through the Ford chicane, the number 89 takes victory here at Le Mans. Wolf
Absolutely
loving
lights
this
out.
second place as well. And Williams kicking himself for that mistake at the end to have to settle for third.
And here comes your GT Pro leader, Brian Bennett, as he makes his way down towards the Ford chicanes one last time to take the checkered flag. He has put in a stellar drive here today.
A win for Brian Bennett as he comes across the line. Nicely done. Meanwhile, just behind him, Ross Booth currently leads Kevin Binkley, and Binkley's not out of the hot water yet because the 45 of Young Park is very close. One mistake will hand it over. Look at this. 2, 3, 4, all across the line, right together, and sputtering to it. Young Park, unfortunately, losing out and the only one off of the podium. Meanwhile, Kevin Santana, our winner in the GTMs, weaves it through the chicane, making it 2 for 3 in this season. A great start for the 666 car here in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. That's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because we will have all the upcoming races on your screen. Welcome back here to the Circuit des 24 Hours du Mans, better known as Circuit de la Sarthe, or the, of course, 24 Hours of Le Mans. Jason DeVries was our winner here today, starting from pole, making it three different winners out of 3 rounds here in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and Josh Wolf followed him home to second, breaking David Williams' streak of second places, but still on the podium. And that will certainly help his championship hopes, but he's probably kicking himself for what were sort of rudimentary mistakes today for the 01. Billy Smith with a 4th was ahead of Luke Carbonneau, earning a top 5. Daniel Morad climbing up to 6th, but I think there was more in it for the number 50 as he had multiple issues throughout the race. Bradley Haley, bit of a quiet day, winding up 7th, and Carter Kundinger was P8. Robert Kanchan up 4 spots, taking a 9th with Leif Peterson behind him, rounding out your top 10. Giuliano Romagnolo, he was looking at a potential podium himself, but it's going to be 11th today for the number 19. Mark Wilson was 12th, and Mike Major was 13th, as David Warner was the last of our finishing prototypes in 14th position. DJ?
In 15th in a race of his own was Brian Bennett. Following him, the 03 of Ross Booth, winning that absolutely incredible battle between Kevin Binkley and Young Park. Marc-Antoine Thibault behind him, and Vance Bow coming home behind them. Olivier Turcotte is 7th in class, followed by Eric Antilli, Stefan Jeffrey, and Gary Muller, the next finishers in that GTE category, followed by Jimbo Pfeiffer, Sheldon Rosenbaum, and Mo Islam, rounding out your finishers in GTE.
After winning the first round, Kevin Santana comes back at round 3 and wins it again after saving some fuel behind second place Joey Atterbury and then pulling a 7-second gap on him after the last pit stop. Jeremy Rhodes came home in the 3rd position, a good finish for him from 3rd on the grid as well. Ryan Wash up 1 position, finishes 4th, with Shane Hunter up 4 spots, himself up to 5th position. Dominic Durenberg comes home in 6th ahead of Joe Stifel, passing him on the final lap. 4-6 position. 7th was Joe Stifel. Then we have Chris Sherburne finishing in 8th position ahead of David Sockrider. Then Dale Green finishes in 10th ahead of Sean Reese in 11th. David Perry's going to come home 12th today, with Tim McLeish 13th, your last driver without significant damage. Then you get a bunch of drivers who had a lot of damage, which you see scrolling on your screen right now.
Fortunately, many DNFs as well amongst them, as it was a rough day out on track, but not a rough day for Jason DeVries, who finally takes his first victory of the season. Jason, a poor start at Daytona, a podium at Sebring, and now a victory here at Le Mans. You can't deny you're on the right trajectory.
Yeah, I usually start the seasons off pretty bad, so I really don't know what to do with myself here. I've just gotten really lucky last 2 races. These are really poor tracks for me, and it turned out pretty well.
Now, we did notice that Williams was kind of gaining on you for much of the last stint. Were you at all worried about that? Did you have concerns that you might see this one slip away?
I was just trying to manage the gap and not lose the car. I had the aero a little bit too frontward bound, so there's probably a little bit more lap time I had, but I didn't want to take the risk with that gap. I wanted to make him take those chances. So I knew he was coming, but until he got within like 3 or 4 seconds, I really wasn't going to change what I was doing out there. Everything worked pretty good with traffic and whatnot.
I suspect this will launch you up the points order by quite a margin. Do you consider Williams kind of your main rival for potential championship here this season?
Yeah, there's probably 4 or 5 of those guys out there. Him, Darling, Morad, Romagnolo, a couple other guys I just can't remember off the top of my head, Billy. So as the tracks start to change and get a little bit tighter later in the season, I think we're going to see some of these guys rise up the order. Traditionally, I start really poorly and try to figure out over the season. So I think some of these guys are going to get a little bit faster and close that gap, and we're going to have a heck of a season on our hands.
Well, we look forward to watching it. Congratulations on your win. And before you take off, feel free to thank anybody for the victory.
Thanks, Joe. Just like to thank our teammates at VRS Satellite Racing. With some really good conversations this week about setup theory and whatnot. And I kind of laid myself out there and came across as the village idiot. But we really came to some really good conclusions. I was able to put them on the car and got a pretty good performance bump out of it. So just want to thank all the guys on the team. Shout out to Ross for finishing P2 and Mike Major for coming back. It's his first race this season. So good race for us, and we'll go see him next time.
Yeah, clearly that's going to help the team results as well. That was Jason DeVries winning the prototypes, but winning in the GT Pro. It's Brian Bennett, and DJ has caught up with him.
Brian, it looked like a relatively quiet race for you out there. Well, as quiet as Le Mans can be in a multi-class field, but you just had the master of this GT Pro field today.
Well, it wasn't easy. It's awful easy to make a mistake by myself out front, for sure. I saw in my mirror, I actually thought I might get hit in the first turn. It looked like somebody was a bit out of shape back there. And after that, they had the draft for a bit, but I was able to run some clean laps and get into my own air and just try to do my thing.
Well, I think your thing worked out pretty well. This is going to start to position you pretty well up through the order. So how are you feeling for the rest of the season, the next couple of races?
Well, I haven't really looked past this one much. The first race kind of ended for me before it got started. And Sebring's my favorite track on the service, and I didn't get to race it. So it's good to get this win in a great field anyway. So I understand Spa's next, and I enjoy that track. So let's see if we can get the RSR working with a little bit more downforce.
Well, we'll be watching for it, my friend. Before we let you go, anybody you need to thank for this class win tonight?
Yeah, I want to dedicate it to a former teammate. Sorry, Patrick Fleming. Shit, he's gone too soon. He would have been ecstatic. He would have been ecstatic for me to win. He was such a good spirit. And then in addition to John King, who is the leader of Kinetic, who's undergoing some health issues right now, and I hope he gets well soon and gets back, and we'll see him in the majors.
Brian, thank you, man, for your dedications tonight, and congratulations on a first place.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you again. And Adam, I believe you have caught up with the GTAM winner, Kevin Santana.
Absolutely, Kevin. It's been a couple of weeks, but it's great to talk to you again after such a great win. But in that first stint, when you were sitting behind Joey, was that all for fuel saving, or did he have the pace on you at the beginning?
I figured, why fight it? I'll just save fuel and jump him in the pit stop.
Absolutely, and it seemed like at one point you did jump him a little bit earlier than the pit stop. Was that according to strategy, or was he just going too slow for you today?
I think he must have gotten a slowdown.
So that's why we saw him off track, obviously. So in the pit stops, you seem to have saved enough fuel to give him a 2-second gap. After you came into that first pit stop, was there anything that really challenged you out there in the multi-class, or was it just smooth sailing from then on?
That was pretty well smooth sailing. I was actually surprised how well the Audi held up its front tires.
Absolutely, front tires holding up well. And towards the end of the race, I noticed that you, in your second stop, didn't take tires. How was the looseness going through the Porsche curves towards the end there?
I could pretty much keep it flat-footed all the way through them, as long as I hit my marks right.
Makes things a lot easier. And with 2 wins on the championship heading into next round, are you going to be definitely aiming for that championship victory if you can keep up this pace?
I'm more worried about getting team points.
Team player from Kevin Santana, absolutely. Well, Kevin, congrats on the win today. Is there anyone you want to thank for that today?
Thank my wife for putting up with me doing this.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, fantastic job today. We look forward to seeing you in the next race.
Thank you. Catch you later.
That was Kevin Santana, our winner in the GTM class, and it looks like Joe has caught up with Joshua Wolf, who finished second today after passing David A. Williams very close to the end of the race.
They always seem to get at least one gem out of Kevin. Meanwhile, Josh, a second place from 7th on the grid. That's got to feel pretty good, although I suppose a bit of a surprise coming so late in this one.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was just kind of running, trying to keep pace with the guys up front and see if there was any mistakes, and that's kind of what happened.
And after we've got 3 rounds in, you've managed 2 podiums now, having to get a 3rd and a 2nd. So you just need 1 more to complete all 3. Can you get the win at Spa?
Yeah, we'll see. We definitely still got a little bit to find in the setup compared to the guys I've been finishing behind. So we'll see what happens. Spa, I've kind of figured out, but still struggle a little bit there. So we'll see how pace looks when it comes next race.
These are obviously pretty different cars from the HPDs that they've run for so many seasons here in Autobahn. How do you feel about the transition and now that we've got 3 races under our belt? Do you like this better than the old open cockpit cars?
For me, being kind of driving the P1 car, it doesn't bother me with having a lack of view. I know with where my pace is at, I'm definitely liking this a lot more than HPD. I just hadn't quite found all the setup kind of tricks that all the other fast guys had with the HPD. So I definitely like the new P2.
Well, it seems to like you after putting up 2 podiums out of 3 runs. Again, congratulations on a 2nd, and looking forward to talking to you over in Belgium. That was Josh Wolf, P2 today in the prototypes. And we're going to close out with a big thank you, of course, to the Autobahn community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here on the Global SimRacing Channel. A thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. We've got listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Adam, DJ, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at simply gsrc.storenv.com. The link is in the description below. But while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, the next race comes up in 2 weeks. That'll be Spa, Monday, January 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and see you on the track.